Maya Jackson stared at the towering glass building of Reynolds Enterprises, clutching her purse tightly. This was it, her first day as an executive assistant in one of New York's biggest companies. After years of temp jobs and night school, she'd finally landed a position that could change everything. Her mama would be so proud. "You've got this," she whispered to herself, stepping through the revolving doors into the sleek lobby. The security guard checked her ID and directed her to the 50th floor. Maya's heart raced as the elevator climbed higher and higher. She'd interviewed with HR, but today she'd meet her new boss, James Reynolds himself, CEO and owner of the company. When the elevator doors opened, a tall blonde woman in a designer suit looked Maya up and down with cold eyes. "You must be the new assistant. I'm Victoria Stone, James's fiancée. Follow me." Maya's heels clicked against the marble floor as she followed Victoria down the hallway. Other employees watched curiously. New faces weren't common on the executive floor. "James is in a meeting," Victoria said, stopping at a large desk outside, a corner office. "This is your workspace. Try to keep up. The last 3 assistants didn't last more than a month." Before Maya could respond, the office door opened. James Reynolds stepped out and Maya's breath caught in her throat. The photos in the business magazines didn't do him justice. Tall and broad-shouldered in a perfectly tailored suit, with dark hair and piercing blue eyes, he radiated power and confidence. "Darling." Victoria moved to kiss him, but he stepped back, his eyes fixed on Maya. "You must be Maya Jackson," he said, extending his hand. "Welcome aboard." The moment their hands touched, an electric current seemed to pass between them. Maya quickly pulled away, her cheeks warming. "Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. I'm excited to join." "Killer team." "James," Victoria interrupted, "we need to discuss the charity gala next week." "The guest list." "Later, Victoria," he said firmly. "I need to get Maya up to speed on several urgent projects." Victoria's perfectly painted lips tightened, but she nodded and walked away, her heels stabbing the floor with each step. The next few hours flew by as James showed Maya the ropes. He was nothing like she'd expected, patient, attentive, and surprisingly down-to-earth. When she mentioned growing up in Harlem with her single mum, he shared stories about his own humble beginnings before building his company from scratch. "Your mother must be very proud," he said softly. Maya's smile faded. "She passed away last year. Cancer. I'm so sorry." The genuine compassion in his eyes made her heart flutter. "Thank you. She always taught me to work hard and never give up on my dreams. That's why this opportunity means so much to me." James leaned against her desk, loosening his tie. "Maya, I have a good feeling about you. I think we're going to work very well together." The way he looked at her made her pulse race. This was dangerous territory. He was engaged, he was her boss. She needed this job. But as the days passed, Maya couldn't deny the growing connection between them. James sought her opinion on business decisions, trusted her judgment, and seemed to find any excuse to spend time with her. Sometimes she'd catch him watching her when he thought she wasn't looking. Victoria noticed too. Her visits to the office became more frequent, her possessive displays more obvious. She'd drape herself over James, talk about wedding plans, or remind Maya of her place with subtle jabs. "James needs his coffee at exactly 9 a.m., she'd say sweetly. "Black, like he likes. Everything else in his life." Maya kept things strictly professional, but it was getting harder to ignore the electricity that crackled between her and James during late nights at the office. The way his hand would brush hers when she handed him documents, the long conversations. That had nothing to do with work. One evening, as thunder rumbled outside the office windows, James asked Maya to stay late to prepare for an important presentation. Victoria had already left for a charity event, her goodbye kiss leaving a red smear on James's cheek that Maya pretended not to notice. They worked side by side in his office, the city lights twinkling below. When Maya reached for a file at the same time as James, their fingers touched. Neither pulled. "Away." "Maya," he whispered, his voice rough. "I can't stop thinking about you. Mr. Reynolds." "James, we can't." But she didn't move as he stepped closer. "I know I shouldn't feel this way, but from the moment you walked in, something changed. I've never met anyone like you." Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the desire in his eyes. Maya's heart pounded so hard she could barely breathe. "What about Victoria?" she managed to ask. "Victoria is—" He ran a hand through his hair. "It's complicated. Our engagement was more of a business arrangement than anything else. But with you, everything feels real." He reached out to touch her face, and Maya knew she should step away. This could ruin everything she'd worked for. But when his lips met hers, all reason disappeared in a flash of heat and need. Neither of them noticed the office door was slightly ajar, or the flash of a phone camera capturing their kiss. Victoria Stone smiled grimly as she slipped her phone back into her designer purse. She'd had a feeling something like this might happen when she'd decided to skip the charity event and return to the office. Now she had exactly what she needed to destroy the woman who dared to think she could steal her fiancé. No one crossed Victoria Stone and got away with it. Maya Jackson was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Maya couldn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt James's lips on hers, heard his whispered words. She'd crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. What kind of woman kissed an engaged man? What would her mama think? The next morning she almost called, in sick, but Maya Jackson wasn't a coward. She held her head high as she walked into the office, even though her stomach was tied in knots. James wasn't in yet. He had an early meeting downtown. But Victoria was waiting at Maya's desk, wearing a smile that sent chills down Maya's spine. "Good morning, Maya dear. Sleep well?" Victoria's voice dripped with honey-coated venom. She held up her phone, showing Maya the photo of last night's kiss. "I have to admit, you work fast. From secretary to homewrecker in just a few weeks." Maya's hands trembled, but she kept her voice steady. "What do you want, Victoria?" "Want? Oh, sweetie. I want you gone. Quit today, and this stays between us. Otherwise—" Victoria's smile widened. "Well, I'd hate to see such a promising career ruined by a scandal. Not to mention what it would do to James's reputation when this hits the tabloids." "You wouldn't dare. It would hurt James too. Please, a powerful man having a moment of weakness with his secretary. That's practically expected. But you?" Victoria leaned closer. "You'll be just another gold digger trying to sleep her way to the top. No decent company will touch you after this gets out." Maya's chest tightened. Everything she'd worked for, everything her mother had sacrificed to put her through school, it could all disappear because of one kiss. "Think about it," Victoria said, walking away. "You have until the end of the day." Maya sat at her desk, fighting back tears. When her phone buzzed with a text from James asking to meet for lunch, she couldn't bring herself to respond. Around noon, Sarah from accounting stopped by her desk. "Girl, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Maya had known Sarah since her first day. She was one of the few other black women in the executive building, and they'd bonded over lunch breaks. "I messed up, Sarah, bad." Sarah glanced around and lowered her voice. "This wouldn't have anything to do with the way Mr. Reynolds looks at you, would it? You noticed? Honey, everyone's noticed. That man hasn't looked at his fiancée the way he looks at you since you started here." Sarah sat on the edge of Maya's desk. "But you need to be careful. Victoria Stone comes from old money, old power. She's not used to not getting her way. She's blackmailing me to quit. She has proof that something happened." Sarah's eyes widened. "Lord have mercy. What are you going to do?" "I don't know. I can't lose this job, Sarah. My mama worked 3 jobs to put me through school. I promised her I'd make something of myself. And that witch Victoria knows it." Sarah squeezed Maya's hand. "Don't let her back you into a corner. Talk to Mr. Reynolds. If he cares about you like I think he does, he'll handle it." But Maya wasn't so sure. Men like James Reynolds didn't throw away their whole lives for women like her. Victoria was probably right. She was just a moment of weakness. The elevator dinged, and James walked in. He smiled when he saw Maya, but his face fell when she quickly looked away. "Maya?" He stopped at her desk. "Is everything all right? You didn't answer my messages?" "I'm fine, Mr. Reynolds, just busy with the quarterly reports." The formal tone made him frown. "Maya, about last night—" "Please," she interrupted. "It was a mistake. It won't happen again." The hurt in his eyes made her heart ache, but she forced herself to stay strong. Better to end it now before Victoria destroyed them both. James opened his mouth to argue, but his phone rang. "It's the Tokyo office," he said after checking the screen. "We'll talk later?" Maya nodded, knowing she'd be gone before that could happen. As soon as James disappeared into his office, she started drafting her resignation letter. Sarah came back around 4, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Tell me you're not really quitting." "What choice do I have?" "Girl, you have plenty of choices. You're just picking the easiest one." Sarah sat down. "Your mama didn't raise you to run from a fight. She also didn't raise me to be the other woman." "No, but she raised you to stand up for yourself, to know your worth." Sarah leaned forward. "Look, I've been here 10 years. I've seen Victoria run off anyone she sees as a threat, but I've also seen the way Mr. Reynolds has changed since you started. He smiles more. He actually talks to people instead of just giving orders." Maya sipped her coffee, remembering how James's whole face lit up when he laughed at her jokes, how he'd brought her soup when she had a cold last week, how he always remembered the little details about her life that she mentioned in passing. Even if what I feel for him is real," Maya said softly, "I can't be that woman. The one who breaks up an engagement. Maybe that engagement needs breaking up." Sarah stood up. "Just promise me you won't do anything rash today. Sleep on it. Talk to Mr. Reynolds tomorrow. Give him a chance to fight for you." Maya nodded slowly. Sarah was right. She at least owed James the truth about why she was leaving. But an hour later, Victoria marched past Maya's desk into James's office. Through the glass walls, Maya could see them arguing. Victoria was waving her phone and James's face had gone pale. When Victoria stormed out, she shot Maya a triumphant look. "Time's up, sweetie. I just emailed that photo to every board member. By tomorrow morning, everyone will know what kind of woman you really are." Maya's world spun. She grabbed her purse and ran for the elevator, ignored James calling her name. She couldn't face him, couldn't face anyone. She was halfway to the subway when her phone rang. It was James. She let it go to voicemail, tears streaming down her face as she rode the train home. But when she checked her messages later that night, it wasn't James's voice she heard. It was Victoria's. "I hope you're happy," Victoria snarled. "James called off our engagement, but don't think you've won. By the time I'm done with you, you'll wish you'd never set foot in Reynolds Enterprises." Maya sat in her dark apartment, staring at her phone. James had ended things with Victoria. For her, before she could process what that meant, another message popped up, this time from Sarah. "Girl, turn on Channel 7 now. Victoria's doing a live interview about her broken engagement, and she's painting you as some kind of predator who seduced her fiancé. It's bad, Maya, real bad." Maya's hands shook as she turned on the TV. There was Victoria, tears streaming perfectly down her cheeks as she told the reporter how her world had been shattered by a scheming secretary who'd taken advantage of James's kindness. "I just want other women to be warned," Victoria sobbed. "These homewreckers are everywhere, pretending to be innocent while they destroy families." Maya turned off the TV, feeling sick. Her phone was already buzzing with messages from co-workers and old friends who'd seen the interview. Tomorrow, her face would probably be all over the news. She jumped when someone knocked on her door. Through the peephole, she saw James standing in the hallway, looking desperate. "Maya, please," he called. Through the door. "Let me explain, let me fix this." She pressed her forehead against the cool wood, tears falling freely now. "Go away, James, just go away. I'm not leaving until you talk to me. I ended things with Victoria because what I feel for you is real. I've never felt this way about anyone." Maya's heart thundered in her chest. Part of her wanted to throw open the door and fall into his arms, but Victoria's words echoed in her head. No decent company would hire her after this scandal. "Maya?" James's voice softened. "I know you're scared, but we can face this together. Just give me a chance to prove how much you mean to me." She closed her eyes, remembering her mother's words from long ago. Sometimes the hardest choice and the right choice are the same thing. But was the right choice opening that door or keeping it firmly shut? Maya didn't sleep at all that night. She could hear James outside her door for hours, occasionally knocking or pleading with her to talk. Around 3 in the morning, everything finally went quiet. When she peeked out her apartment door at dawn, she found him asleep in the hallway, his expensive suit wrinkled, his hair a mess. Her heart squeezed at the sight. She'd never seen the powerful CEO looking so vulnerable. "James," she said softly, touching his shoulder. "Wake up." His eyes flew open. "Maya, thank God, please, can we talk?" She glanced at her watch. "I have to get ready for work. You can't go to the office today. Victoria's interview is all over the morning news. Reporters are camped outside the building." Maya's stomach dropped. "Then I definitely need to go in." "I won't hide like I did something wrong." James stood up, wincing as he stretched his stiff muscles. "At least let me drive you. We can talk on the way." Maya wanted to say no, but she knew he was right about the reporters. "Fine. Give me 30 minutes to get ready." While she showered and dressed, her phone kept buzzing with messages. Her sister in Atlanta, college friends, even her old boss. From the temp agency. Everyone wanted to know if it was true. When she came out, James was pacing her small living room, talking on his phone. "I don't care what it costs," he was saying. "Get our PR team on this now, and call an emergency board. Meeting for 9 a.m. He hung up when he saw her. "Maya, I'm so sorry about all this. I should have handled things differently with Victoria." "You think?" Maya grabbed her purse. "Let's go. The sooner we get this over with, the better." The ride to the office was tense. James kept trying to explain, but Maya stared out the window, watching the city wake up. Her whole life was falling apart, and she couldn't even blame Victoria. She was the one who'd kissed an engaged man. As they pulled into the underground parking garage, James grabbed her hand. "Maya, please look at me." She turned, fighting back tears. "I love you," he said simply. Maya's heart stopped. "What?" "I love you. I think I've loved you since that first day when you talked about your mother and your dreams. Victoria was right about one thing. I did change after you started working for me. You made me remember who I was before all this." He gestured at his expensive car, his designer suit. "Before I started caring more about money and power than real connections." "James," Maya's voice broke, "you can't love me. We barely know each other. I know enough. I know you bring coffee to the security guards every morning. I know you stay late to help the cleaning staff practice their English. I know you send half your paycheck to your sister to help with her kids' college fund." Maya blinked in surprise. She'd never told him about helping her sister. "I pay attention," he said softly. "I've watched you for months, seeing your kindness, your strength, your integrity. And yes, maybe I fell too fast. Maybe this is crazy. But I know what I feel." Before Maya could respond, his phone buzzed. "The board's waiting," he sighed. "Come up with me. Let me handle this." She nodded, too overwhelmed to argue. They took the executive elevator straight to the top floor. Through the glass walls, Maya could see the conference room was already full. Victoria was there too, sitting next to James's brother, Michael. "Ready?" James squeezed her hand. "No, but let's do this anyway." They walked into the conference room together. The buzz of conversation died immediately. Victoria's eyes narrowed at their clasped hands. "James," Michael stood up. "What's the meaning of this? Have you seen the headlines?" "I have." James's voice was steel. "And I'm here to set the record straight. Maya Jackson is not some predator or gold digger. She's the woman I love. My relationship with Victoria was over long before anything happened with Maya." Victoria jumped up. "That's a lie. We were happy until she came along and seduced you." "Were we?" James's laugh was bitter. "We were business partners playing house, Victoria. You knew it, I knew it. The only real thing between us was ambition." "How dare you?" Victoria's face was red. "After everything my family has done for this company." "You mean the loans your father arranged? The ones I paid back with interest? Years ago?" James turned to the board. "I know you're all concerned about the company's reputation, but I won't let an innocent woman's life be destroyed by lies and manipulation." "Innocent?" Victoria pulled out her phone. "Does an innocent woman kiss her engaged boss? Does an innocent woman—" "That's enough!" Sarah's voice cut through the room. Maya hadn't even noticed her friend slip in. "Sorry to interrupt, but y'all need to see something." Sarah walked to the conference room screen and plugged in her phone. A video started playing. It showed Victoria in James's office late one night talking to Michael. "Once the merger goes through," Victoria was saying, will have controlling interest. James won't know what hit him." "And you're sure he suspects nothing?" Michael asked. "Please. He's so focused on work, he barely notices me. The marriage is just a formality to keep the shareholders happy. After a year, we'll stage a messy divorce. Between my father's shares and yours, we can force him out completely." The video ended. The room was dead silent. "Where did you get that?" Victoria whispered. "I'm head of IT security," Sarah said calmly. "Those cameras record everything. I've been watching you and Michael for months, just waiting for you to show your true colors." Michael stood up, straightening his tie. "This proves nothing. It's probably doctored." "The timestamps and metadata are intact," Sarah replied. "I've already sent copies to every board member's email, along with records of your secret meetings with our competitors." Victoria lunged for her phone, but James was faster. He grabbed it and held it out of reach. "I think we've all seen enough," one of the older board members said. "Michael, Victoria, I suggest you leave before we call security." "This isn't over," Victoria snarled, grabbing her purse. "Daddy's lawyers will..." "Will what?" James's voice was quiet but deadly. "Try to explain why his daughter was plotting corporate espionage, why she tried to destroy an innocent woman's reputation to cover her tracks. Go ahead. Call them. Michael." And Victoria stormed out. As soon as they were gone, James turned to the board. "I apologize for this scandal. I take full responsibility for my part in it. If you want my resignation..." "Don't be ridiculous," the same board member interrupted. "You've built this company from nothing. We're not letting a pair of scheming vipers drive you out." He turned to Maya. "Ms. Jackson, I believe we all owe you an apology." Maya could barely process what was happening. 10 minutes ago, she'd thought. Her career was over. Now, "Thank you, Sarah," she managed to say. "I don't know how to repay you." Sarah grinned. "Girl, please. I've been wanting to take that witch down for years. You just gave me the perfect opportunity." The board meeting wrapped up quickly after that. As people filed out, many stopped to shake Maya's hand or offer words of support. James never left her side. Finally, they were alone in the conference room. Maya turned to him, still stunned by everything that had happened. "I can't believe it," he said, pulling her close. "It's over. Victoria can't hurt you anymore." "But what about the press? The scandal? Let me worry about that. Our PR team will handle it." He touched her face gently. "The only thing that matters is us, if you'll give us a chance." Maya thought about running away last night, about all her fears and doubts, but she also thought about James sleeping in her hallway, about his unwavering support, about the love she'd seen in his eyes when he defended her. "I'm still your employee," she said weakly. "Funny you should mention that." Sarah poked her head back in. "We have an opening in the executive training program. Someone with your qualifications would be perfect for it." "Different department, different supervisor?" Maya laughed despite herself. "You think of everything, don't you? That's why they pay me the big bucks." Sarah winked and left them alone again. James pulled Maya closer. "Well, what do you say? Ready to take a chance on us?" Maya looked into his eyes and saw her future, scary and wonderful and real. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes to everything." When he kissed her this time, there was no guilt, no fear, no holding back, just pure joy and the promise of tomorrow. But outside the building, Victoria sat in her car, watching the reporters gather. She picked up her phone and dialed a familiar number. "Daddy, it's time to call in all those favors you've been saving. I want Reynolds Enterprises destroyed, and I know just how to do it." Victoria's father, Richard Stone, sat in his mahogany-paneled office listening to his daughter's tearful story. His face grew darker with each word. "So James Reynolds thinks he can humiliate my little girl." He picked up his phone. "Nobody does. This to a Stone and gets away with it." Victoria smiled through her tears. Her father had always given her everything she wanted. This time would be no different. Meanwhile, back at Reynolds Enterprises, Maya was starting her new position in the executive training program. The scandal had died down thanks to the PR team's quick work, especially after Sarah leaked proof of Victoria and Michael's plotting to select media outlets. "How's the new office?" James asked, leaning against her doorway. Even after 3 weeks together, the sight of him still made her heart skip. "Bigger than my old desk," she laughed. "But I miss seeing you every day." He walked over and kissed her softly. "Dinner tonight. I want to show you something special." "I can't. I promised Sarah I'd help her move into her new apartment." "Rain check." James's face fell slightly, but he nodded. "Tomorrow then. Don't make any plans." Maya watched him leave, wondering what he was planning. She'd learned that James Reynolds had a romantic streak nobody would have suspected. That evening, as Maya helped Sarah unpack boxes, her friend seemed distracted. "Something wrong?" Maya asked. "You've barely said 2 words all night." Sarah glanced at her phone for the 10th time. "I've been monitoring some strange activity in our computer systems. Like someone's trying to hack in, but they're being really careful about it." "Victoria, maybe, but this is more sophisticated than anything she could pull off." Sarah sat down heavily. "I've got extra security protocols running, but something feels wrong." Maya's phone buzzed, a text from James. "Miss you, can't wait for tomorrow." She smiled, typing back a quick reply. After everything they'd been through, she wasn't going to let Victoria or anyone else ruin their happiness. But across town, in a private club, Victoria was meeting with a man who specialized in making problems disappear. "I want everything," she told him. "Bank accounts, emails, phone records, find me something we can use." The man nodded. "It'll be expensive." Victoria pulled out a check. "Money's not an issue. Just get it done." The next morning, Maya woke up to chaos. Her phone was exploding with messages, and the TV news was showing footage of James being led out of his penthouse in handcuffs. "Breaking news," the reporter announced. "James Reynolds, CEO of Reynolds Enterprises, has been arrested on charges of fraud and embezzlement. Sources say millions of dollars are missing from company accounts." Maya's hands shook as she called James. No answer. She tried his lawyer next. "It's a setup," the lawyer said grimly. "Someone planted false records making it look like James has been stealing from the company for years. They even fabricated offshore accounts in his name." "Victoria," Maya whispered. "Probably. But proving it won't be easy. These records look very real." Maya rushed to get dressed. By the time she reached the office, reporters were everywhere. Sarah met her at the security entrance. "Girl, it's bad," Sarah said, pulling her inside. "Someone breached our entire system last night. They didn't just plant evidence, they destroyed the real records that could prove James's innocence." "Can't you recover them?" Sarah shook her head. "They knew exactly what they were doing. This was a professional job." The elevator opened, and Michael stepped out, smiling smugly. "Ah, Maya, just the person I was looking for. What do you want?" "The board has named me interim CEO, and given the circumstances, we feel it's best to suspend the executive training program. You understand?" Maya's fists clenched. "You're firing me, letting you go, with a generous severance package. After all, we're not monsters." His smile widened. "Victoria sends her regards." Sarah stepped forward. "You can't do this. I have proof that you and Victoria—" "What proof?" Michael held up a USB drive. "You mean this? Amazing how careless people can be with important files." Sarah's face went pale. "How did you—" "Let's just say Victoria's new friend is very good at what he does. All your evidence is gone. Might want to clean out your desk too, Sarah. The board doesn't appreciate employees who spy on executives." He walked away, whistling. Maya grabbed Sarah's arm as her friend swayed. "What are we going to do?" Sarah took a deep breath. "We fight back. Victoria and Michael think they've won, but they don't know everything." "What do you mean?" "Remember when I first started monitoring them? I didn't just keep the records on my work computer. I have backups, hidden ones." Hope flared in Maya's chest. "So we can prove they set James up?" "Maybe, but we need help." Sarah pulled out her phone. "And I know just who to call." An hour later, they sat in a small diner with Marcus Chen, Sarah's former colleague from her days working cybersecurity for the FBI. "They're good," Marcus said, looking at the code on Sarah's laptop. "But they left traces. Give me time, I can follow them back to the source." Maya's phone rang. James's lawyer again. "The prosecutor is offering a deal. 5 years if he pleads guilty." "He's innocent." "I know, but without proof." The lawyer sighed. They've frozen all his accounts. The company's stock is tanking. If we don't move fast, there won't be anything left to save. Maya looked at Sarah, and Marcus hunched over the laptop. Give us 48 hours, that's all I'm asking. I'll try, but no promises. Maya took a taxi to the jail where they were holding James. He looked tired, but managed a smile when he saw her. You shouldn't be here, he said through the glass. They'll use it against you somehow. I don't care, we're going to fix this. Maya, his voice softened. Listen to me. Take the severance package. Get out while you can. I can't bear the thought of them destroying you too. That's not happening. I love you, James Reynolds. And I'm not going anywhere. Tears filled his eyes. I was going to propose tomorrow night. Had it all planned out. Dinner at the place we first kissed roses. A ring I've been carrying around for weeks. Maya pressed her hand against the glass. Save it. You can ask me properly when we get you out of here. You're incredible, you know that? I learned from the best. She smiled through her tears. My mama always said nothing worth having comes. Easy. Back at Sarah's apartment, Marcus worked through the night tracing the hack. Maya and Sarah took turns bringing him coffee and helping him sort through data. Around dawn, he sat up straight. Got something. The hacker accessed the system using credentials from a security firm owned by Richard Stone. Victoria's father, Maya breathed. That's not all. Marcus pointed to his screen. Look where the money really went. Sarah leaned. These transfers, they're going to accounts owned by Stone Industries. They're the ones stealing from Reynolds Enterprises. And they're using James as a scapegoat, Maya finished. We need to get this to the prosecutor. Not yet, Marcus said. Give me a few more hours. I want to make sure they can't wiggle out of this. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She opened it and froze. What? Sarah asked. Maya showed her the screen. It was a photo of Maya's sister and her kids, obviously taken that morning outside their home in Atlanta. Below it was a message. Back off or they're next. V. She's threatening my family now. Maya's voice shook with rage. Sarah grabbed her hand. That's it. No more playing nice. Marcus, how fast can you hack into Stone Industries? He cracked his knuckles. Girl, I thought you'd never ask. As the sun rose over New York, 3 people hunched over a laptop, racing against time to save not just James, but everything and everyone they loved. And across town, Victoria raised a champagne glass with her father, celebrating their victory. Neither of them noticed the small red light blinking on Richard's computer, signaling that someone had just broken through their final firewall. The real war was just beginning. Marcus's fingers flew over the keyboard as dawn broke over the city. I'm in. You won't believe what I'm finding in Stone Industries' servers. Maya leaned forward, clutching her coffee cup. She hadn't slept in 36 hours, but adrenaline kept her going. What is it? This goes way beyond framing James. He pointed to his screen. Look at these emails between Richard Stone and Michael Reynolds. They've been planning this takeover for years. Sarah squinted at the text. They needed James out of the way so they could merge Reynolds Enterprises with Stone Industries. That's why Victoria got engaged to him in the first place. There's more, Marcus said grimly. Remember those missing millions they blamed on James? I found where the money really went. Stone's been using it to bribe regulators, silence whistleblowers. This is serious criminal stuff. Maya's phone buzzed again. Another photo of her sister, this time at her workplace. The message read, Last warning. They're watching my family, Maya said, her voice breaking. We need to end this now. Sarah squeezed her shoulder. I've got people I trust keeping an eye on your sister. She's safe, but you're right. It's time to move. Marcus nodded. I've got enough evidence to bury them all. Question is, who do we take it to? The FBI, Sarah said firmly. I still have contacts there, people who can't be bought. Maya stood up, pacing. What about James? He's still sitting in jail while we figure this out. Actually, Marcus smiled. I think I found something that might help with that too. Victoria's been paying regular visits to the prosecutor, handling James's case. Want to guess what they talk about? He pulled up a recorded conversation that made Maya's blood boil. Victoria and the prosecutor were discussing how to make sure James took the plea deal before anyone could dig too deep into the evidence. That's witness tampering, Sarah said. We can use this. Maya grabbed her purse. I'm going to see James's lawyer. Get everything ready. We're ending this today." But when she reached the lawyer's office, she found chaos. The lawyer was shouting into his phone while his assistant tried to calm him down. "What's happening?" Maya asked. The lawyer covered the phone. "They're moving up James's arraignment. It's happening in 2 hours. Victoria's father pulled some strings. They're trying to force a quick plea deal." Maya's heart raced. "No, we have proof he's innocent. We just need more time." "Then you better get it fast, because once he takes that deal, it's over." Maya called Sarah in a panic. "We're out of time. They're forcing James to plead guilty today." "Girl, slow down. Marcus is packaging everything up now. We just need—" "No, you don't understand. Once he takes that deal, none of the evidence will matter. He'll lose everything and Victoria wins." There was a pause. "Okay, new plan. Get to the courthouse. Stall them however you can. I'm calling in every favor I've got." Maya grabbed a taxi, praying she'd make it in time. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed as Victoria and her father strutted up the steps like they were at a fashion show. "Miss Stone," one reporter called out, "how does it feel knowing your ex-fiancé might go to prison?" Victoria dabbed at fake tears. "I'm just heartbroken. I trusted him so completely." Maya pushed through the crowd, ignoring the cameras turning her way. Inside, she found James being led in by guards. He looked defeated. "James," she ran to him, "don't take the deal. We have proof you're innocent." "Time's up, Miss Jackson." Michael appeared beside her. "The show's over. Like hell it is." Sarah's voice rang through the corridor. She strode in with Marcus and 2 stern-looking FBI agents. Victoria's smug smile faltered. "Daddy?" Richard Stone straightened his tie. "Whatever they think they have, our lawyers will handle it." "Your lawyers can't help you now," one of the FBI agents said, holding up a warrant. "We have enough evidence to charge you both with fraud, conspiracy, and witness tampering. Mr. Reynolds isn't the one going to prison today." Michael tried to run, but was quickly caught. Victoria screamed as handcuffs clicked around her wrists. "This is ridiculous," Richard bellowed. "Do you know who I am?" "A criminal," Sarah said calmly, "and we can prove it." The prosecutor came running up, his face pale as he looked at the evidence Marcus had assembled. "Your Honor," he called to the judge who had just entered the hallway, "the state is dropping all charges against James Reynolds." Everything happened in a blur after that. The guards removed James's handcuffs. Victoria and her father were led away, still protesting. Michael was caught trying to hide in a bathroom, and then finally, Maya was in James's arms. "I don't understand," he whispered against her hair. "How did you do all this?" "She had help," Sarah said, grinning. "Lots of help. Nobody messes with my friends." Marcus cleared his throat. "Not to interrupt, but there's something else you should see." He opened his laptop, showing them footage from Stone Industries' security cameras. It showed Richard Stone shredding documents and deleting files just hours after James's arrest. "Classic consciousness of guilt," the FBI agent said. "Between this and the electronic evidence, they're looking at serious time." James pulled Maya closer. "I can't believe you did all this for me." "Actually," Maya smiled, "there's something else you should know." She led him to a quiet corner away from the chaos. "Remember what you said about proposing? Maya, after everything you've been through because of me. Because of you." She touched his face. "James, I fought for you because I love you, because I believe in you, and because I learned a long time ago that running away from love only leads to regret." He pulled the ring box from his pocket. They'd returned his personal items after releasing him. "I was going to do this at sunset with music and flowers. This is better." Maya's eyes filled with tears as he got down on one knee right there in the courthouse corridor. "Maya Jackson, you saved my life in more ways than one. Will you marry me?" "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes." Their kiss was interrupted by applause. A crowd had gathered, including several reporters with cameras. "Now that's what I call a story," one reporter said, wiping away tears. Sarah hugged them both. "Come on, lovebirds. We need to get back to the office. There's a company that needs saving." But as they walked out into the sunlight, Maya spotted Victoria being led to a police car. Their eyes met, and Victoria's face twisted with hate. "This isn't over," she mouthed. Maya just smiled and held James's hand tighter. Whatever came next, they would face it together. In the back of the police car, Victoria pulled out a hidden phone and sent one last message. Start Plan B. Somewhere in the city, a computer received the message. Files began downloading and a timer started counting down. Sarah's phone buzzed with an alert from Reynolds Enterprises' security system. Her eyes widened as she read it. Guys, she called after Maya and James. We might have a problem. Sarah's face had gone pale as she stared at her phone. The entire system at Reynolds Enterprises is shutting down. Everything. Security. Elevators, climate control. Victoria's final revenge, James said grimly. Can you stop it? Not from here. Sarah was already running toward her car. But whatever she's done, it's bad, really bad. They raced through the city streets trying to reach the office. Maya's phone rang. It was the head of HR. Miss Jackson, thank God. The computers are going crazy. Files are disappearing, and there's some kind of countdown on every screen. We're on our way, Maya assured her. Tell everyone to stay calm. When they pulled into the parking garage, chaos greeted them. Employees were streaming out of the building, clutching their belongings. Just the elevators are dead, someone shouted. And it's getting hot in there, Sarah sprinted for the emergency stairs, with Maya, James, and Marcus right behind her. 20 flights up, they burst into the IT department, gasping for breath. The scene was like something from a disaster movie. Every screen showed the same red countdown clock. 45 minutes and ticking down. What happens when it hits zero, Maya asked. Marcus was already plugging his laptop into the main system. Nothing good. This is a sophisticated virus. It's not just deleting files, it's overloading the building's systems. Overloading how? James leaned over his shoulder. The heat's rising because it's pushing the climate control to maximum. Same with the electrical system. When that timer hits zero, Marcus shook his head. The whole grid could blow. We have to evacuate, James said. Get everyone out. Wait. Sarah pointed to her screen. Look at what it's targeting first. All our client data, financial records, everything that makes the company run. Victoria's not just trying to destroy the building. She wants to wipe Reynolds Enterprises off the map. Maya felt sick. Even from jail, Victoria was still trying to destroy them. Can we stop it? She asked. Marcus cracked his knuckles. Maybe, but we need access to the main server room. That's 4 floors down, Sarah said. Without elevators, then we better start climbing. James grabbed a flashlight. Show me what to do. For the next 30 minutes, they fought a digital war. Marcus and Sarah worked from the IT department, while James and Maya ran up and down stairs, following their instructions to manually override. Systems, 15 minutes left. Sarah's voice crackled over their phones. We need to get into that secured server, but Victoria changed all the passwords. Maya leaned against a wall, catching her breath. The heat was getting worse. Sweat soaked through her clothes. What about the backup servers? She asked. The ones in the old building? There was a pause. The old building? James turned to her. What are you talking about? Sarah told me once that when the company first started, you had servers in the GE warehouse district. Said you never shut them down because I'm sentimental, James finished. Maya, you're brilliant. Those servers aren't connected to the main network. Victoria wouldn't know about them. He grabbed his phone. Sarah, if we can get to the old servers, can you use them to override the virus? Yes, but you have less than 15 minutes and the warehouse is across town. James looked at Maya. Trust me? She grabbed his hand. Always. They ran to the parking garage where James kept his fastest car. The engine roared to life and they shot out into traffic. 10 minutes. Sarah's voice was tense. The temperature is reaching critical levels. We've got smoke in the server room. James weaved through traffic like a race car driver, ignoring red lights and angry horns. Maya held on tight, praying they'd make it. The warehouse was dark. When they pulled up, James used his old key and they ran inside. Where is it? Maya's flashlight beam danced across dusty shelves. Back office, come on. They found the servers covered in dust but still humming. James pulled out his phone. Sarah, we're here. Now what? Marcus's voice came through. Connect to the blue cable. It should still have a direct line to the main building. James's hands flew over the keyboards, following their instructions. Done. 7 minutes, Sarah announced. Initiating override. Wait, something's wrong. Victoria put in a failsafe. It needs her personal password. Maya's mind raced. What would Victoria use? What meant enough to her to... Try Daddy's Princess, she said suddenly. What? The photo on her desk, it was her as a little girl wearing a tiara. Her father called her that in the interview she did. Try it, Sarah typed quickly. No good. Need something else. Maya closed her eyes, thinking of all the times she'd watched Victoria preen in front of mirrors, adjust her designer clothes. Perfect reflection. Capital P, capital R. A moment of silence. Then Sarah whooped. We're in. Override initiating, a virus contained. Systems restoring. Maya sagged against James in relief. He pulled her close, kissing her hair. That was amazing. How did you know her password? I was her enemy, but I was also her fiancé's assistant. I noticed things. Maya smiled sadly. She was so obsessed with being perfect with her image. Everything else was just a reflection of what she thought she should be. James's phone buzzed. A text from the FBI agent. Got Victoria's message to her contact, adding cyber terrorism to her charges. She won't be getting out for a very long time. They drove back to the office slowly, exhausted but relieved. The crisis was over, but as they walked through the lobby, Maya noticed something odd. A cleaning woman she'd never seen before was mopping the floor, watching them intently. The woman pulled out a phone as they passed. Maya caught a glimpse of the screen. She was texting someone named Mrs. Stone. James, Maya whispered. Victoria's mother. They'd been so focused on Richard and Victoria, they'd forgotten about Caroline Stone, the quiet, seemingly harmless society wife who'd stayed in the background. But now Maya remembered something Sarah had discovered in their investigation. Before marrying Richard, Caroline had run her own tech company, a company that specialized in corporate takeovers. The quiet ones, Maya realized, were often the most dangerous. As if reading her thoughts, the cleaning woman smiled. A cold, familiar smile that sent chills down Maya's spine. The war wasn't over. It was just changing generals. Caroline Stone sat in her elegant penthouse, sipping tea from a bone china cup as she watched the news about her husband and daughter's arrests. Unlike Victoria's dramatic outbursts or Richard's angry threats, Caroline's face remained perfectly calm. More tea, Mrs. Stone, her maid asked. No, thank you, Helen. Caroline set down her cup. But do tell me, what did you observe at Reynolds Enterprises today? The maid, actually a former intelligence operative, smiled. They managed to stop Victoria's virus, but only barely. The company's vulnerable, and like you predicted, they're so focused on Victoria and Richard, they haven't even thought about you. Of course not. Caroline's laugh was soft but cold. I'm just the quiet society wife who hosts charity luncheons. No one ever suspects the mother. She walked to her study, heels clicking on marble floors. The walls were covered not with family photos, but with business magazines. Covers featuring companies that had mysteriously collapsed after crossing paths with her previous tech firm. What about the girl? Caroline asked. This Maya person who's caused so much trouble? She's clever. She's the one who figured out Victoria's password, saved the company. Interesting. Caroline opened her laptop, revealing dozens of files on Maya Jackson. She comes from nothing, yet she's managed to win James Reynolds' heart and help bring down my husband and daughter. I almost admire her strength. Should we eliminate her as a threat? No. Victoria's mistake was making things too personal, too messy. We'll do this the smart way. Caroline pulled up Reynolds Enterprises' stock prices. Maya's strength is her love for James. That will also be her weakness. Across town, Maya and James were finally home after the exhausting day. She'd moved into his penthouse a week ago and it still felt surreal. The luxury, the view, the feeling of falling asleep in his arms. What's wrong? James asked, noticing her distracted expression. That cleaning woman today. Something felt off. Maya. He pulled her close. Victoria's in jail, her father too, it's over. Maybe. But Maya couldn't shake her unease. What do you know about Victoria's mother? Caroline? Not much. She's always been background. Shows up at charity events, looks pretty, stays quiet. Too quiet. Maya pulled out her phone, texting Sarah. Need everything you can find on Caroline Stone. The response came quickly. "Way ahead of you, girl. Come to my place tomorrow. You need to see this." That night, Maya dreamed of her mother. They were sitting in their old kitchen, steam rising from coffee cups. "Baby girl," her mother said softly, "remember what I taught you about chess. Sometimes the queen is so busy watching the knights and bishops, she forgets about the pawns. Until it's too late." Maya woke up with her heart pounding. James stirred beside her. "Another nightmare?" "No. Maybe. I don't know." She got up, walking to the window. The city sparkled below, beautiful and dangerous. "Come, back to bed," James murmured. "In a minute." Maya checked her phone. A message from her sister. "Strange woman came by work today. Said she was from a private school, asking about your niece and nephew. Felt weird." Maya's blood ran cold. She forwarded the message to Sarah. The next morning they met at Sarah's apartment. Marcus was there too, surrounded by computers. "Caroline Stone," Sarah said without preamble. Before she married Richard, she ran a company called Phoenix Digital, specialized in hostile takeovers. "I remember them," James frowned. "They'd target struggling companies, then somehow those companies would have mysterious technical problems, lose all their data, until they had no choice but to sell," Marcus finished. "And guess who always bought them for pennies on the dollar?" "Stone Industries," Maya whispered. "Caroline was the real brains," Sarah continued. "She wrote the code for their first virus programs, but when she married Richard, she supposedly retired, became the perfect society wife." "Supposedly?" Marcus pulled up some files. "I did some digging. Phoenix Digital officially closed, but a lot of their old employees now work for shell companies owned by Caroline, including one Helen Walsh, former CIA cyber operations." Maya's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. It was a photo of her sister's kids at their school playground taken that morning. The message read, "Such beautiful children. Shame." "If anything happened to their college fund." "What college fund?" James asked, reading over her shoulder. Maya's hands shook. "The money I've been sending my sister, it's gone. Someone cleaned out her accounts this morning." Sarah grabbed her laptop. "I'm on it." Marcus, already tracing the hack. His fingers flew over the keyboard. "It's good, really good, professional grade stuff." Maya's phone buzzed again. This time it was a video, security footage from inside Reynolds Enterprises, showing her and James kissing in his office that first night. "I have more," Caroline's voice purred in a voicemail. "Much more. Meet me for tea tomorrow, dear. Just us girls. I'll text you the address." James tried to object, but Maya silenced him with a look. "I have to go. She's not just threatening me now. She's going after my family." "It's a trap," Sarah warned. "Of course it is." Maya squared her shoulders. "But maybe it's time someone trapped her back." That night, as James slept, Maya sat in their home office looking at old news coverage of Caroline Stone. Always in the background, always watching, always silent. But her eyes. Maya recognized that look. It was the same one Victoria got when plotting someone's destruction. Her phone lit up with another text from Caroline. "Believe it or not, dear, I actually like you. You remind me of myself at your age. Hungry, ambitious, willing to do whatever. All it takes, let me help you." Maya thought about her mother's words from the dream, about queens and pawns and watching the wrong pieces. She texted back, "Name the time and place." Caroline's response was immediate. "Excellent. The Plaza, noon tomorrow. Come alone, or your sister's children lose more than their college fund." Maya deleted the messages, then called Sarah. "I need a favor," she said softly. "Something James can't know about." "Girl, you're scaring me. Caroline thinks I'm like her, ambitious enough to betray anyone, so let's let her think she's right." There was a pause. "What exactly are you planning?" Maya looked at James sleeping peacefully in their bed. "Something terrible," she whispered. "Something that might save us all." In her penthouse, Caroline Stone smiled at her phone. Everything was going according to plan. But as she sipped her nighttime tea, she didn't notice the tiny camera hidden in her favorite orchid, the one her maid Helen had given her that morning. The game was changing, and no one knew all the players yet. The Plaza Hotel's tea room sparkled with old money and whispered conversations. Maya smoothed her simple black dress, feeling every eye on her as the maitre d' led her to Caroline Stone's table. Caroline rose to greet her, elegant in cream-colored Chanel. "Maya, darling, you look lovely." Maya forced a smile, remembering Sarah's words from their late-night planning session. Let her think she's in control. Let her think she's winning. "Thank you for inviting me, Mrs. Stone. Please call me Caroline." She poured tea from a silver pot. "I suppose you're wondering why I wanted to meet. I assume it has something to do with the money you stole from my sister." Caroline's laugh was like wind chimes. "Stolen is such an ugly word. Consider it motivation for our conversation." A waiter appeared with delicate sandwiches and pastries. Caroline waited until he left before continuing. "You're a remarkable young woman, Maya. You've risen from nothing, captured one of New York's most eligible bachelors, and helped destroy my husband and daughter." She stirred honey into her tea. "I'm not angry, by the way. They were sloppy, emotional. They deserved to fail." Maya's hand trembled slightly as she lifted her cup. "What do you want?" "To offer you a choice." Caroline's eyes hardened. "James Reynolds is finished. He just doesn't know it yet. I've spent months placing my people throughout his company. One word from me and everything crashes. Systems fail, contracts disappear, clients flee. Like you did with Phoenix Digital. You've done your homework. Good." Caroline smiled. "Here's my offer. Help me take control of Reynolds Enterprises, and I'll make you rich beyond your dreams. Fight me and I'll destroy everything you love, starting with those precious nieces and nephews." Maya set down her cup. "Why me?" "Because you're like me, a survivor. You understand that love is weakness, but power is forever. And what about James? Oh, he'll lose everything, of course, but he'll survive. Probably move to some small town, start over." Caroline's voice softened with fake concern. "It'll be hard watching his dream die, but men are resilient, and you'll have moved on long before that happens." Maya thought about the tiny transmitter Sarah had helped her hide in her bracelet, broadcasting every word to their team. About the program Marcus was running, tracing Caroline's digital footprints. About the FBI agents waiting for their signal. But mostly she thought about James, sleeping peacefully this morning as she slipped away. About the note she'd left, saying she needed time to think. He'd be hurt, confused. Exactly what they needed Caroline to believe. "How would it work?" Maya asked quietly. Caroline's eyes gleamed with victory. "Simple. You're close to him, know his passwords, his security codes. Help me access everything, and I'll transfer $10 million to an offshore account in your name." $10 million. Maya whispered. "Think about it. No more sending money to your sister, no more worrying about the future." Caroline reached across the table, squeezing Maya's hand. "You're too smart to let love ruin your life." Maya pulled her hand away. "I'll need time to think." "Of course, but don't take too long." Caroline stood gracefully. "I'll expect your answer by tomorrow night. Oh, and Maya," her voice hardened, "don't try warning James. My people are watching his every move." After Caroline left, Maya sat there shaking. Her phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "We got it all. You okay?" But before she could respond, another message came through. This one was from James. "Where are you? We need to talk." Maya's heart sank as she opened the attached photo. It showed her meeting Caroline, their hands clasped across the table. "One of Caroline's people must have sent it to him," Sarah said when Maya called. "She's playing both sides. Or someone else did," Maya said slowly. "Sarah, what if we're still missing something? What if Caroline's not working alone?" "What do you mean?" "My mother used to say that in chess, the best players think 5 moves ahead. What if that's what Caroline's doing? What if this whole meeting was just a distraction?" Maya raced back to Reynolds Enterprises, her mind spinning. The lobby was strangely quiet. No security guard at the desk. The elevator opened and her blood ran cold. Michael Reynolds stood there, smiling. "Going up? You're supposed to be in jail. Amazing what good lawyers can do." He grabbed her arm. Pulling her into the elevator, "Caroline sends her regards. Let me go. Sorry, can't do that. See, while you were having tea with the lovely Mrs. Stone, Some interesting transfers were happening. By tomorrow morning, Reynolds Enterprises will belong to a new shell company, one owned jointly by Caroline and me. Maya's mind raced. You were working with her all along. Victoria and Richard were just pawns. Finally figured it out, did you? The elevator stopped at the executive floor. Caroline needed someone inside the company. I needed her technical expertise. It was a perfect partnership. He dragged her toward James's office. Through the glass walls, she could see James arguing with Caroline. Right on schedule. Michael smirked. Maya watched in horror as Caroline handed James a tablet. His face went pale as he read whatever was on the screen. Time to watch your whole world burn, Michael whispered. But he didn't notice Maya pressing the panic button on her bracelet, the one Sarah had designed to send an emergency signal. Somewhere in the building, computers whirred to life. Marcus's programs began running, following the blueprint they'd created last night. Maya smiled grimly. Check your phone, Michael. He pulled it out, frowning at the screen. Then his face went white. What? What is this? Every transaction you've ever made with Caroline, every secret account, every bribe going live to the FBI right now. Maya yanked her arm free. You're right. I did learn from Caroline. I learned how to think 5 moves ahead. The elevator dinged. Sarah stepped out with 2 FBI agents. Michael Reynolds, one agent said, You're under arrest, again. Maya ran to James's office just as Caroline was trying to leave. Going somewhere? Maya blocked the door. Maybe to warn Helen about the FBI raid on your penthouse. Caroline's calm facade cracked. How did you know about your hidden servers? Your real plan? Maya held up her bracelet. I had help, good help, the kind money can't buy. James stood up, looking between them. Maya, what's going on? Ask your ex-assistant, Caroline spat. She's the one who's been playing both sides. No, Maya said quietly. I've been playing you, making you think you'd won, while Sarah and Marcus tracked every digital footprint, making you reveal your whole network. Caroline lunged for her phone, but Maya was faster. It's over, she said softly. The FBI has everything. The shell companies, the offshore accounts, the bribes, even that hidden camera you had Helen plant in our bedroom. James's face darkened with anger, but Maya squeezed his hand. Let it go, she whispered. She's not worth it. As the FBI led Caroline away, her perfect composure finally shattered. You stupid girl, she snarled at Maya. You could have had everything. I already do. Maya looked at James. I have love. I have family. I have truth. What do you have? Caroline? The older woman's face crumpled as the elevator doors closed. James pulled Maya into his arms. I got your note this morning. I thought that I was betraying you. She touched his face. Never. But we needed Caroline to believe. I would. It was the only way to draw out her whole network. You risked everything, no. Maya smiled through her tears. I protected everything. Like my mama always said, sometimes you have to weather the storm to see the rainbow. But as they held each other, Maya's phone buzzed one last time. A text from an unknown number. Congratulations. Dear, you've won this round, but remember, every queen was once a pawn. See you in a few years. See, Maya deleted the message. That was tomorrow's problem. Right now, in James's arms, she was exactly where she needed to be. Outside the window, storm clouds gathered over the city, but this time, Maya wasn't afraid. She'd faced down queens and knights, weathered betrayals and schemes. She was ready for whatever came next. They both were. 6 months had passed since Caroline Stone's arrest. The media frenzy had finally died down, and life at Reynolds Enterprises was returning to normal. Maya sat in her new office. She'd been promoted to Director of Corporate Communications, looking at wedding magazines. Still can't decide on flowers, Sarah teased, walking in with coffee. James says to get whatever I want, but Maya sighed. It feels wrong spending so much money on one day. Girl, you're marrying one of the richest men in New York. Live a little. Maya smiled, but her eyes drifted to the photo on her desk, her mother at her college graduation, beaming with pride. I just wish she was here to help plan everything. She is here. Sarah, squeezed her hand. In your heart. And she'd be so proud of you. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from her sister. The kids can't stop talking about their new school. Thank you again for the tuition. After everything that happened, James had insisted on setting up a trust fund for Maya's niece and nephew. Family takes care of family, he'd said simply. The intercom buzzed. Ms. Jackson, there's a woman here to see you. Says she's an old friend. Maya tensed. Did she give a name? Helen Walsh. Sarah was already reaching for her phone, but Maya stopped her. Send her in. Caroline's former maid walked in, looking different in civilian clothes. Her eyes were tired. Before you call security, Helen said quickly, I'm here to warn you. About what? Caroline, she's planning something from prison. I don't know what exactly, but she's been getting visits from some powerful people. And she keeps talking about a wedding. Maya's blood ran cold. Her wedding to James was in 3 weeks. Why are you telling me this? Helen sat down heavily. Because I'm tired. Tired of the schemes, the lies. Caroline promised me wealth, power. But in the end, she took everything. My savings, my reputation. How do we know this isn't another trap? Sarah demanded. You don't. But check my phone. Helen placed it on Maya's desk. The last 6 months of messages from Caroline. She still thinks I'm loyal to her. Marcus confirmed the messages were real. Caroline had indeed been plotting something, calling in favors, moving hidden money through complex channels. Should we postpone the wedding? James asked that night, when Maya told him everything. No, Maya's voice was firm. I'm not letting her control our lives anymore, but maybe we should make some changes to the plans. The next 3 weeks were a blur of preparations, but not the kind most brides dealt with. While caterers arranged flowers and musicians practiced songs, Sarah and Marcus set up sophisticated security systems. FBI agents posed as waiters and guests. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear. Maya stood in the bridal suite of the grand church, her white gown sparkling in the sunlight. You look beautiful, her sister whispered, adjusting the veil. Maya touched the locket around her neck. It had been their mother's, her something old. Inside was a tiny photo of her mama, smiling that bright smile that had gotten them through so many hard times. Ready? Sarah appeared in her maid of honor dress. Security's in place. If Caroline has something planned, we'll catch it. But as Maya walked down the aisle toward James, all thoughts of Caroline faded away. The church was filled with real friends, true family. Love surrounded them like a shield. The ceremony began, sunlight streaming through stained glass windows. When the priest asked if anyone objected, Maya held her breath, but there was only silence. I do, she said clearly when the moment came. I do, James echoed, sliding the ring onto her finger. They were pronounced husband and wife, and James pulled her into a kiss that made the whole church cheer. The reception was a fairy tale come true. Maya danced with her new husband, laughing as he twirled her around the ballroom. Mrs. Reynolds, he whispered against her hair. That's going to take some getting used to. We have a lifetime to practice. Everything was perfect, too perfect. The champagne was being poured for toasts when Sarah's phone buzzed. Her face went pale as she read the message. Maya, she called urgently, you need to see this. It was an email from Caroline, sent to every major news outlet in the country. The subject line, The True Story of Maya Jackson. Maya's hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a detailed account of her childhood, not the simple story of a hard-working single mother she'd always told, but ugly secrets her mama had taken to her grave. Her father hadn't abandoned them as she'd claimed. He'd died in prison, serving time for armed robbery. Her mother had worked 3 jobs, yes, but one of them had been cleaning the very office building where Maya would later become an executive. She's trying to humiliate us, Maya whispered. Make it look like I lied my way into high society. But James took the phone and did something unexpected. He forwarded the email to his own contact list. What are you doing? Telling the world how proud I am, he said firmly. Proud that my wife came from a mother who worked so hard to give her children a better life. Proud that you overcame every obstacle. Proud to call you my wife. Tears filled Maya's eyes. But your society friends can either accept us as we are or find other friends. He took her hand. No more secrets, no more shame. Caroline thought this would destroy us. Let's show her how wrong she is. Maya looked around the ballroom at their guests, wealthy socialites mixing with her old neighbors from Harlem, corporate, executives dancing with her sister's kids. My mama used to say that real class isn't about where you come from, she said softly. It's about how you treat people along the way. She took the microphone from the band leader, her voice strong and clear. I want to thank everyone for coming today. And yes, I see some of you checking your phones reading about my past. She squeezed James's hand. I'm not ashamed. My parents made mistakes, but they loved me. My mother worked herself to the bone to give me an education. She taught me that dignity isn't about your bank account or your address. It's about your character. The room was silent, hanging on her every word. So thank you, Caroline Stone, wherever you are. Thank you for reminding me that I have nothing to hide. I am Maya Jackson Reynolds, daughter of a cleaning lady and a man who paid for his mistakes. I married the love of my life today, and no amount of secrets or schemes can take that joy away. The ballroom erupted in applause. James pulled her into another kiss, and soon everyone was dancing again. Later that night, as they swayed to the last song, Maya smiled at her new husband. Think we'll ever have a normal life? Normal's overrated. He kissed her softly. Besides, with Caroline in prison, what's the worst that could happen? Maya's phone buzzed, a text from Helen. She's being released next month. Good behavior. James felt her tense. What is it? Tomorrow's problem, Maya said firmly, tucking the phone away. Tonight is just about us. But as they danced under the crystal chandeliers, Maya couldn't help wondering what Caroline's next move would be. After all, in chess, the game isn't over until the queen falls, and Caroline Stone was still very much in play. 1 year later, Maya stood in the nursery of her and James's penthouse, watching the sunrise over Manhattan. Her hand rested on her growing belly, 6 months pregnant with their first child. Good morning, little one, she whispered. Your daddy's coming home today. James had been in London for a week, closing a major deal. Reynolds Enterprises was stronger than ever, expanding globally under their joint leadership. Her phone buzzed, a news alert she'd been dreading. Caroline Stone released from federal prison. Maya took a deep breath, remembering all they'd survived. Victoria was still in prison along with her father and Michael, but Caroline was different, smarter, more patient. Sarah called almost immediately. You saw the news? Just now. Any sign of her? Not yet. But Marcus is monitoring everything. If she tries anything... The elevator dinged. James was home early. Maya waddled out to greet him. Surprise! He swept her into his arms, careful of her belly. Couldn't wait another minute to see my girls. They'd learned last month they were having a daughter. Maya had cried when the doctor told them. Happy tears, but also scared ones. The world could be so cruel to little girls with big dreams. How's my princess? James knelt to kiss her stomach. Active. She definitely knows her daddy's voice. Maya ran her fingers through his hair. Did you see about Caroline? Already handled. Extra security. New protocols. He stood up. But that's not what I want to focus on today. Come here. I have something to show you. He led her to the living room where a large package waited. Open it. Maya unwrapped the package to find a beautiful painting, a portrait of her mother, smiling that bright, unforgettable smile. How did you... Found an artist who works from photographs. I thought she should be here, watching over her granddaughter. Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks as she traced her mother's face. It's perfect, she looks so real. There's more. James handed her an envelope. Inside was paperwork for a new charitable foundation, the Rose Jackson Memorial Scholarship Fund. For children of single parents, James explained. Full college scholarships, plus mentoring programs. Your mother worked so hard to give you an education. Now her legacy can help others do the same. Maya couldn't speak. She just held him, overwhelmed by love. The moment was broken by her phone ringing. An unknown number. Hello? Maya, dear. Caroline's voice was smooth as silk. Miss me? James reached for the phone, but Maya held up her hand. What do you want, Caroline? To congratulate you, of course. Marriage Baby Charitable Foundation, you've done quite well for yourself. If you're planning something, planning? Oh no, dear. I'm done with all that. Prison gives one time to think, to reprioritize. Maya didn't believe her for a second. Then why call? To warn you. Caroline's voice hardened. Victoria's not as comfortable in prison as I was. She's made some interesting friends, very interesting friends. More threats, really? Not a threat, a gift. Mother to mother. A pause. Check your email. Maya opened her laptop, James looking over her shoulder. There was a new message containing prison surveillance videos, Victoria meeting with known criminals, planning something. Why are you showing me this? Consider it a peace offering. I've learned that revenge is a young woman's game. These days I prefer investment opportunities. Maya's eyes narrowed. What kind of opportunities? The legitimate kind. You see, I've had a revelation. Why waste energy destroying Reynolds Enterprises when I could help it grow? For a reasonable share of the profits, of course. James took the phone. You're insane if you think... Think carefully, Caroline interrupted. I'm offering valuable intelligence about real threats to your company and your family. All I want is a seat at the table. A small board position, perhaps? Maya took the phone. Back, and if we refuse, then handle Victoria on your own. But remember, I survived prison by making allies, not enemies. The choice is yours. The line went dead. Maya sat heavily on the couch, her daughter kicking inside her. She's lying, James said. It's another scheme. Maybe. Maya stared at the videos. But what if it's not? What if Victoria really is planning something? Then we'll handle it together like we always do. Maya looked up at her mother's portrait, remembering her words. Baby girl, sometimes the hardest path and the right path are the same thing. She made a decision. Call the board, she told James. I have an idea. 2 weeks later, Maya sat across from Caroline Stone in a conference room. Congratulations, Maya said coolly. You've been appointed to the Reynolds Enterprises Advisory Board. Non-voting position, of course. Any attempt to access sensitive information or contact other board members will result in immediate termination. Caroline smiled. I accept. And Victoria's friends are being monitored by the FBI thanks to your evidence. Consider it your first contribution to the company's security. My dear, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful partnership. Maya stood, her hand protectively over her belly. No, Caroline, this is a transaction, nothing more. We'll see. Caroline's eyes gleamed. By the way, have you chosen a name for my future goddaughter? Her name is Rose, Maya said firmly. After my mother, and you will never go near her. That night, as Maya got ready for bed, she felt her daughter kicking strongly. Shh, little Rose, she whispered. Everything's okay. Mommy's got this. James wrapped his arms around them both. Having second thoughts? No. Keep your friends close. And your enemies on a very short leash, he finished. You're brilliant, you know that? Maya turned in his arms. I had good teachers. My mama taught me strength. Sarah taught me loyalty. Even Caroline and Victoria taught me something. That power without love is meaningless. She looked around their home, at her mother's portrait at the nursery waiting for their daughter, at the life they'd built together. The game's not over, she said softly. But maybe the rules have changed. How so? Caroline thinks she's won a piece of our world, but really we've tied her to us, made her invested in our success. And Victoria... Maya smiled. Victoria's about to learn that her mother's betrayal hurts worse than any revenge. James kissed her. Have I mentioned lately that I love your mind almost as much as your heart? Sweet talker. But Maya kissed him back, feeling Rose kick between them. Later, as James slept, Maya stood at the window watching her city sparkle. So much had changed since that first day she walked into Reynolds Enterprises. She'd gained love, lost innocence, found strength she never knew she had. Her phone lit up with a message from Caroline. Sleep well, dear, big things ahead. Maya deleted it without responding. Let Caroline plot and plan. Let Victoria rage in her prison cell. They didn't matter anymore. Because Maya had learned the most important lesson of all. True power isn't in schemes or money or revenge. It's in the love that surrounds you, the truth that guides you, and the legacy you leave behind. She touched her belly, feeling her daughter move. "Sweet dreams, baby girl," she whispered. "Your story's just beginning." And somewhere in the city, lights below, another chapter was already writing itself. But that was tomorrow's tale.